So, you broke your arm. What do? Most of you would probably go to the doctor and get a cast or a sling. But not all people would do this. Some may not be able to afford a doctor, and others cannot get to one. This is an example of a healthcare disparity. The technical definition of a healthcare disparity is the preventable difference in the burden of disease, injury, violence, and opportunities to achieve optimal health that are experienced by socially disadvantaged populations. But what this really means is that one group of people has less access to healthcare services or providers than another. These disparities can exist across many categories, including race, gender, and socioeconomic status. But the most common disparity exists between those who have health insurance and those who do not. Now, Louisiana currently ranks number 46 in healthcare in the United States, ahead of only Mississippi, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and West Virginia. This means that Louisiana is behind 45 other states in healthcare access, healthcare quality, and public health outcomes. I wanted to look at why Louisiana ranks so low, so I conducted a study examining healthcare disparities in Louisiana. First, I needed to do some background research. Did you know that in 2016, Louisiana gave over 400,000 previously uninsured people access to health insurance? This is the result of something called the Affordable Care Act. It is a law passed by the US Congress that grants states the ability to expand Medicaid, or government-funded health care, to low-income people. This is an opt-in program, meaning that while some states decided to expand Medicaid, others did not. Louisiana is the only state in the Deep South that decided to expand Medicaid, which puts it in an interesting position to be studied. Especially because we are still number 46, and with the exception of only one, the other states in the Deep South that did not decide to expand Medicaid are ahead of us. So, I decided to look at healthcare access in Louisiana for my study. To track healthcare access, I used data from the 2021 Louisiana Health Insurance Survey, which was conducted by the LSU Economics and Policy Research Group. I examined access to healthcare services, like x-rays, and healthcare providers, like doctors, in the categories of gender, race, and residence type. I ran 20 different models and 10 different tests. These tests compared people with healthcare insurance and without health insurance. Here's how it worked. Every model I ran spit out an equation in the form y equals a plus bx, something you may have seen in your math classes. The important part of this equation was the b value, also known as the coefficient. If this coefficient was negative, it indicated that one group of people had less access to healthcare services or providers than another. For example, when I ran this test in the gender category, it came up negative, which means that in Louisiana, men generally have less access to healthcare services and providers than women. I repeated this process for the rest of the categories, concluding that in Louisiana, white Louisianians generally have better access to healthcare services and providers than black Louisianians and Louisianians classified as other, and that Louisianians living in urban areas like Baton Rouge generally have less access to health insurance, to healthcare than Louisianians living in rural areas. The equations I ran also spit out a p-value, which is just a number that tells us whether or not our result is significant. If the p-value is greater than 0.05, the result is insignificant and cannot be used to draw conclusions. But if the p-value is less than 0.05, the result is significant and we can use it to draw conclusions. This will be important for later, so keep it in your back pocket. Next, I ran the tests. These tests worked like this. I looked at the coefficient, and if the coefficient changed when I ran the second model, I determined that the disparity was eliminated. For example, when I initially ran the tests for healthcare services on male Louisianians, I found that the coefficient was negative. This means that men in Louisiana have less access to healthcare services than women do. But then I ran the test again, this time looking at only male Louisianians with insurance. And the coefficient came out to be positive. This means that the disparity was eliminated. The reason that men generally have less access to healthcare services than women in Louisiana is because fewer men have insurance. Next, I repeated this process for the rest of the categories, determining that the only disparity that was eliminated is the gender one I just described. The residence type disparity, unfortunately, yielded an insignificant p-value, so I could not draw any conclusions from it. But more interestingly, the racial disparity was not eliminated. This means that in Louisiana, black Louisianians and Louisianians classified as other generally have less access to healthcare services and providers than white Louisianians, even when only looking at those who are insured. This could result from many factors, but what it tells us is that in Louisiana, access to health insurance does not guarantee access to health care. This disparity could be caused by any number of effects, including geographic location or socioeconomic status or another systemic issue. But what we really need to look at is why this disparity existed. And now, most of you are probably wondering why I'm telling you this. Why do you need to know about this issue? You have health insurance. You have access to health care. You can go to the doctor and get a cast or a sling. And while that is true, it's still important for you to know about this issue. Because my research may not have identified the cause of this disparity, but it shined a light on an important problem. In Louisiana, access to health insurance does not guarantee access to health care, which means that healthcare disparities are not simply caused by a lack of insurance, and that giving more people insurance will not fix healthcare disparities. So, in a few years, we will be the people tasked with finding the solutions to the problems of our state. We will be the lawmakers and the leaders and the lobbyists that are going around and trying to figure out how to reduce healthcare disparities in Louisiana. Will we implement a catch-all solution like expanding Medicaid that only solves part of the problem? Or will we do the research to find the right solutions? Will we ask follow-up questions to determine whether or not our solutions actually work? Will we make informed decisions about the future of our state? Will we implement multifaceted solutions to solve multiple facets of the problem? Will we settle for number 46, or will we strive to be number 1?